Good morning, friends of the chow.
Hello.
Where are we today?
In Rome.
No,
This furniture is for Rome, yet we're in Castellamonte.
still at Magic Paint in Castellamonte. And which part of Rome?
In a lovely, fairly central residential neighbourhood of Rome at Lucia's house.
And here we're seeing me. What does she do, Lucia?
Lucia is a professional medical doctor, a highly skilled specialist in health and rejuvenation. She's sporty and has a beautiful home. She loves high quality and designer furniture, and she's also very active on social media.
Therefore, both our own projects and those of our collaborators. Obviously, in the TV series, that will be broadcast on Sunday mornings on Lanzate and repeated where?
On Laysette time, the evening, late at night, or on laysette.it, whenever and however you like.
Free of charge, no registration needed. Absolutely brilliant. You'll see my work and that of the other professionals who work with me on the makeover of this beautiful home, which was already stunning, but we made it truly tailor-made for Lucia. In fact, Matteo will be there. He'll suggest lots of things. Federico as well. All in all, fantastic. Especially to, let's say, balance out Lucia's very social side as well. Whereas today, I try to be completely different from what we usually are. These 7 episodes, because there are 7 in total that you'll see of this wonderful TV series, Quella Giusta, la casa che cercavi, will always have colourful furniture, but in the Rome house, I tried to be a real break from the rest. It's a very modern house, with shapes that I really like, sinuous, soft, and I'm pleased to include 2 pieces that are antiques. This one is custom-made, because it will go in a very particular corridor. Its soft, rounded shapes will definitely stand out, especially since everything around is very light, very soft. And it'll be the very first thing you see when you walk into the house. So we're not painting today. Today, we're going to work on the shapes of this piece of furniture to completely restore its structure and beauty, bringing it up to date by removing all this old stuff. Unfortunately, all this old finish covers it with gloss and scratches, and we're also going to restore some shapes that are very damaged. In a moment, you'll see what happens at the back. The back is in really bad shape. So, shall we get started? Let's go. First, we're taking the whole piece of furniture apart. The rear panel is in a bad state and needs full restoration. Over the years, it's likely damp damaged, with boards expanding and contracting, so nothing is level. We'll remove everything to restore it, taking out the drawers to vacuum, clean and sanitize the interior because it's very dirty. So make sure you follow all these important steps carefully. Right then, Emma, let's take it out. The drawers are all numbered anyway. As you can see, it doesn't slide very well, and is there a gap? No, the drawer is actually in decent condition. Let's check the number underneath. But in my opinion, it's 4 to 1, 2, 3, and 4. We should see where this one goes. And you can see there are things in here as well, and this one is a number 2. Perhaps that's odd, but we'll double check it anyway. You can see that inside there are all these dividers. They're absolutely right. It's just that, as you can see, if you move one, the rest fall over. It's actually a very good thing that these dividers are here because they haven't compromised the stability of the unit. Now we'll vacuum it, turn it round and clean the back as well. Let's take this one out as well, which luckily still have the original little plugs from the unit inside. That's really important because they'll be fully restored later. And just look inside, how lovely it is. It's got something really wonderful, this bit here. Look at that incredible lock. This is a lock that was clearly meant to keep some important secrets. Look, obviously it was also used for writing, and unfortunately here someone has stolen a little drawer. So it'll be up to us to find a solution to close it. We'll probably paint it, as it's also stained with ink. We'll remove everything if possible, and if we can, we'll also take apart the inside section. Let's carry on. I'm going to begin by taking off this door here, because I need to work on upgrading the inside as well. So I'll take out the old screws so that I can then remove this whole section, which is the secure part that actually open the door's strike plate. That way, afterwards, we can work on the inside section. Thank you. We're taking it apart, everything in fact. Just look at what it's like behind. All these slats. It needs to be slotted in here. They're being removed, as you can see. So bit by bit, everything is being taken out. And this way, we'll be able to slide it out and then put everything back in. To do this job, I have to go very carefully, because obviously it's nailed in, as you can see. There are nails that have held the panel in place for many years, and now we're taking them out. We've removed the panel, and this is what was underneath, some old animal eggs. That's why it's always essential, when doing this kind of work, to properly dismantle it inside. Now let's see how to carry on. Look here. Emma, let's get the hoover and start cleaning up. What's there? In here? Wow. Società di San Remo. Lovely. It's a buckle. You always discover some treasures. I've lightly sounded these first 3 planks that will go on the underside. Actually, by looking at these, you can tell whether the piece of furniture is really old or not. Why is that? Because they've been sawn with very manual saws, planed by hand, and you can still see it from the marks. This is one of the reasons why I don't work on it too much. I've just sanded it to clean it up and removed the worst stains, but I want to keep the original woodwork. That's important, as it helps date the piece. Let's remove all these old nails. Just be careful when you take them out not to damage the wood any further. Rest something made of iron underneath to use as leverage. This way you won't end up making more holes, scratching or damaging the wood. Look gently. When you're faced with a piece of furniture like ours, with a lovely burr veneer and you want to preserve it, there are quite a few steps to follow. As you can see here on this little drawer, there's some masking tape. Why that? Because we're carrying out a process that will now show you on this one, the second drawer. Since we've decided to preserve the burr veneer without removing it, it needs to be glued down to prevent it from coming away due to moisture when we strip the varnish or restore it later on. So, using a small spatula and some PVA glue, you work the glue underneath the burr veneer and press it down, in this case using masking tape, which really leaves the surface extremely thin. We carry out this process wherever it's needed, so we'll do it on this part of the drawer, on this section of the furniture, on the burr veneer here, here, and underneath there, everywhere the veneer has come off, but also in places where it might potentially come away in the future. For example here, if you look against the light, you can see it's slightly raised. So what will we do here? Here, in a moment, we'll take an iron. We'll iron over it to flatten this veneer. In this way, it'll be re-glued and become smooth again. All these steps should always be done before stripping the finish. If you do it afterwards, it becomes a mess because the veneer comes away and then it's difficult to fix. So at this point, as you can see, it lifts up slightly. So I gently lift it, carefully smooth it all out, firmly press it down into place, and voila! It's actually very important to press it down. Obviously, we'll leave it exactly like this, at least until tomorrow morning to set completely. We won't touch it until tomorrow, you see? And voila! It's important to preserve it before it comes away completely. As you can see on this piece of furniture, there's a lot to do. Just look at the unsightly old drips from those who've tried to save it over the years. It's a tough job. Now we've saved the old patches from the furniture, and we'll show you how we glue them back on. This is an old patch, and it's the original one. We've already cleaned and scraped it. It's definitely the right one. It fits perfectly, made to measure. Clearly, here too, we put a little drop of PVA glue. We apply the patch as perfectly straight as possible, and then, with a small hammer, I tap it very lightly so that it slots into place. If nicely wedged in, Emma, there's absolutely no need to use tape. We clean inside with a little brush. With this piece of furniture, you have to go gently. We've realised that. We've filled, fixed and glued it. But one thing we've waited to do is strip the paint. What's that? Because it's made up of surfaces that are very different from each other. This, for example, is the top we removed earlier. Do you remember? I was removing and pulling all those nails. Let's remove the first layer. I might go over here as well, with a bit of sandpaper and sand it a bit. But something very important you need to understand is that here, where it's solid wood, you have to act one way, while here, where it's veneered, you have to act differently. When I go to strip the paint here, I'll be even more careful because the thin layer of veneer must absolutely not be damaged or made too damp. So please take care. Always remember not to sand veneered or laminated furniture. I take the paint stripper, which is very gentle, and I apply it generously over the entire surface. Why am I doing this step now? Because I need to see what colour comes out. I've now applied the paint stripper to a little drawer that has burr walnut and to this surface here, which doesn't have it. And so this one is solid wood. This way, I'll be able to compare the two types of wood. I'll see what colour comes out and I'll understand how to proceed. One important thing though, the step I'm about to show you, always do it when you have solid wood furniture, or in any case with a lot of varnish or many layers to remove, because it's important to let the paint stripper have enough time to work properly. However, avoid it if you have very delicate or veneered surfaces that could, let's say, be affected by it. So I'm not going to do the same step on the drawer that I've just done now, and do you know why? Because I could even risk the veneer coming unstuck, as you can see. Now I'm spreading it again so that there's a nice generous layer, but also an even one all over. To help the paint stripper work better, I'm going to spray a bit of water on it. This will help keep it more moist and more active. This is the reason why you can't do it. These are burr walnut and veneered furniture. And now Emma and I are going to put on the film. By doing it this way, it will have all the time it needs to work properly without drying out. But one thing you absolutely must do is this. Ensure that you press the film down extremely firmly to the surface you want to work on. Because if you don't do this, pockets of air will inevitably get inside and stop the paint stripper from working as it should. This way you can even leave it on for longer. Obviously, don't leave it in the sun or in places where there's too much air, alright? This helps to keep it moist and allows it to work properly. Usually, I found that half an hour after I've done this step, the paint is practically 100% removed. But as I mentioned earlier, here I need to see what the surface is like once the paint strip has been removed, because it will be different on the solid wood surface, which is this top, and on the veneer surface. We'll have a look at it together in a minute. On the veneered drawer, which we don't want to damage, perhaps from too much moisture, because we don't want the veneer to come unstuck, we need to do this. Simply apply the paint stripper, always remembering that it mustn't dry out, and cover it well with plastic film. Here we can't spray any water. Taking this particular step now will definitely help the paint stripper perform significantly more effectively without any of the material coming away. But on the sections made of solid natural wood, if you spray a bit of water first, the solution is able to remain active for a much longer period. please, it really needs to adhere fully. And if you're worried that some air might still get through, we'll also put a bit of masking tape around it, like this. This really stops the air from getting in and lets the paint stripper do its job. Good. Remember, as I said, now I'll wait for about half an hour. Then I'll gently lift the edge on one side and scrape it a little, and I'll try to see if it's done its job. There's no need to rush, all right? This is one of the methods that actually makes things easier for you. You might as well go and watch a TV series in the meantime. As you can see, we're not clueless. Well, sometimes we are, sometimes not, but not today, because we've already done a first test sample on this little drawer. In fact, as you can see, it's lighter, it's incredibly smooth, and of course, it's no longer shiny like all this stuff around it. But above all, we can see there are no more drips or blemishes. Basically, it's the original burwood in its natural state. Why did we do this first little drawer? First of all, because it's good to always give you proper guidelines. And above all, because on every surface, the burwood always reacts differently. As I said before, please be careful where there's burwood. Don't use water where there isn't solid wood. You can give it a couple of sprays to intensify the effect of the paint stripper. Here, act accordingly. Sand or don't sand. So what I tell you should always be thoroughly tested to give you the best possible help. So the advice I give you is always do the same yourselves. First, test it on a drawer. Don't go and put paint stripper all over the whole piece of furniture straight away. Do the test on a drawer first, and then you'll understand the timings. And how long did it take, all right? That way it makes more sense. So now I've stripped the paint there, and here I've already applied my paint stripper. Now I'll show you how to approach the drawer, which is veneered, and the top, which is solid wood. And I'll show you the two differences, also because these woods have definitely been stained with a wood dye. What is wood dye? They are dyes that often dissolve in oil, sometimes in solvent, depending on the type of aniline, the type of colouring agent. Here, they've definitely applied it over time. Now watch closely, because what's about to happen is fantastic. Once you carefully scrape off all the paint stripper that has worked so effectively, you will eventually get a result like this. A surface that, as you can see, has been stripped. You can also make use of the same wrap you used for covering to assist you when rubbing the surface, helping you to get right into the crevices as well. It will help you remove the material even more effectively, but above all, it serves to clear away any of the remaining excess. With this piece of furniture, I am actually forced to do both of these specific steps. So, both the removal of the paint with the paint stripper, which is the step I'll show you shortly, with the ethyl alcohol at a 90-degree angle. Why is that? Because underneath, there is certainly a percentage of dye, of mordant, which must come off, and comes off only with alcohol. But above, you need to remove this protective layer, this varnish, which has dripped and really ruined the surface. I've peeled off everything that would come away. Bit of clean paper, I'll remove the excess, because you know very well that here it's best not to use water, don't you? And so in this case, we're not going to use a damp cloth, because you don't do that with burr walnut. And as you can see, it's still very dirty. Look, here it's very cloudy. You can see there are several bits, can't you? Look, this isn't because the paint stripper doesn't work. No, it's simply because you also need to use alcohol to remove the residue. Now let's focus on one spot. Come in very close and have a look here. Applying alcohol, which obviously doesn't damage the burwood, you can see how dirty it still is. Come on down. Cloudy, dark. Can you see it? And now look. How it turns out after going over it with steel wool and alcohol. Look here and now. See? The impurities have come away, thanks to the alcohol as well. See how little by little it immediately becomes lighter? Look at the difference here and here, where it's still cloudy. Can you see? We go over it and all the residue comes away. And there you have it. Now Emma takes a wrung-out cloth, really well wrung out, which I only use to remove impurities, nothing else. Obviously, now we'll clean it properly. If necessary, we'll change the steel wool and go over it once more with alcohol to really remove all the imperfections and impurities. And then, in a bit, I'll show you when it's dry as well. In the meantime, let's strip the paint from the solid wood surface too, so you can really see the difference between stripping a wooden surface and a burr wood surface. Let's remove the film and see how the paint stripper has worked over this half hour. Obviously, as you can see, it's already coming off here as well. Here I'm using the scraper. Why's that? It's not because I'm mad, but because I've got proper solid wood throughout, and not just a veneer, which could obviously be quite easily damaged if you happen to scratch any of the carving. Now, as you can see, I'm removing the surface layer here as well. And slowly, as you can see, I'm peeling off the plastic bit by bit. Because otherwise, by the time I get over there, it might have dried out a bit. And if it's dry, it doesn't come off as well. I don't want to make it hard work. So slowly, I'm taking off whatever comes by. If you see it looking dark, that's perfectly normal. It's the same thing I mentioned earlier, even on the other surface. There's some stain that's coloured the wood. So please be careful. Let's pour the alcohol, because here too it'll help us remove a bit of the overly dark tone and impurities, and anything else that's not right. You mustn't rush. You need to let the alcohol do its job calmly. Here, as you can see, from dark, dirty and murky, it will all come off. You'll see a very different wood emerge. Emma, remove the excess alcohol and the dye. And perhaps we'll go over it again so it'll become even more purified and clean. We've removed the first layer of alcohol, now I'll apply it again because I think an even lovelier colour will come out. As you can see here, there's a much lighter area where I pressed harder. Here it's more reddish and it still feels a bit sticky. In this way, by going over it again with alcohol, I'll definitely remove more impurities and the wood won't get damaged. So, a clean steel wool. Alcohol, and I work the surface following the grain. Continue over the whole piece of furniture. Right now, I'm going over it with some rubbing alcohol again, and I clean the surface a second time. This is his younger brother, who will go in this beautiful corridor, very soft. A little brother who hides a secret. Ta-da! An amazing ceramic interior. And what was put in here? Back then, a chamber pot, also known as a potty, was put in here because at the time there weren't any bathrooms in the house. And so you'd have a wee at night when you needed to in the potty, then you put the potty back in here, take it out, use it and put it back again. The luckier ones had someone who would empty it in the morning. Those less lucky had to empty it themselves. But even just having a chamber pot cabinet wasn't all that common at the time. In fact, now we'll clean it, we'll sanitize it. Inside, where the ceramic is, I'll use spray bleach because it really helps to whiten the ceramic and, of course, to clean it. Even gar! Obviously, it hasn't been used in this way for many years. It's a very well-made, high-quality piece of furniture because it has all these carvings that were, of course, done by hand. And here, too, we'll be working as we did on our piece of furniture, so paint stripper and then alcohol. Let's get started. I'll spread the paint stripper over the whole surface here as well, then wrap it up nicely with my cling film so it helps me remove all this little layer. It's a bit shiny, and of course we'll go over it with alcohol to remove the stain as well. When we are dealing with the intricate areas containing carvings, it is essential that we use the brush to remove every bit of the remaining residue. Let's leave it like this for half an hour, nicely wrapped up, and then we'll see how it's turned out. Let's remove our paint stripper and then go over it with alcohol. Here too, we'll have a first layer that's come loose, and we'll definitely remove the excess with our little brush, which helps us get into the crevices. And also these tiny little dots that really seem impossible to reach. It's important, of course, not to let the paint stripper dry out. For this reason, we remove the film a bit at a time as we go along. Since it's solid wood, we're less worried about possible damage, although it's always best to use a well-wrung sponge and immediately follow with paper. The first step is working very well. Soon it'll be time for the alcohol. On the bedside table as well, use fine steel wool and ethyl alcohol. Please, don't be alarmed and don't worry. Here, as you can see, it hasn't been cleaned yet, but after a wipe with alcohol and steel wool, it will be. We're going to remove all the impurities and reveal perfect wood. Remember to always follow the grain of the wood. Never go against it. Always work in favour of the wood grain. Go on.